the beginning of the Carnevale itself, right, which is the masquerade party, and it goes on for a while. When I was on the lip of manhood, when I was a rascal for the final event of my childhood, for my big man, har har, matey, what's that you're telling me? For my impersonation, I received a grade of A+ from Nonna and Cavallo. They toasted me with wine at their table in a corner of the ballroom. A perfect pirate, Cavallo pronounced, and to this odd locution he added a conspiratorial link. Nonna was swathed head to foot in black, her costume devised from a lace tablecloth, jet dyed, cut and layered into a mantle that totally obscured her identity. Her voice indicated she was female, but Nonna would not answer whenever asked exactly who or what she was. Her body was an illusion within an illusion, and no one who did not know her could have guessed that beneath her costume, one leg was fake, her teeth was false, and she needed regular shots of insulin like fuel injection. To top it off, when finally she did lower her veil, we could see how her cheeks had been powdered white and how a bright red was applied to make her mouth look like it had been painted by Toulouse-Lautrec. A mauve beauty mark rode just above the jawline on the left side of her face, and it moved up and down when she laughed. I thought it resembled a tiny horseman in the snow. Her nose was an Apennine ridge he must cross on his way to her lips. Throughout the evening, she took people's hands and told them stories she found in their palms. Her little deck of tarot cards was nestled in her lap, and sometimes she would choose a card at random, turn it over on the table before her, and whatever the card proclaimed, Buona fortuna! I see good things ahead. A pair of gold hoops gleamed against the borders of the veil. It had been quite a while since anyone had seen her so animated, and her high spirits brought a special flavor to the festivities. Cavallo's transformation was jarring and delightful in its own way, as a true masquerade ought to be. Even if we know the person behind it, we're happy to collude with the artful imposture. He was outfitted in the long brown cassock of a medieval friar, and from a stout white rope about his waist there hung a simple wooden cross. His silver hair and barbetta were well oiled, and it seemed he had applied makeup to his dark eyes so that they looked sunken and fervent like those of a religious hermit. On the ring finger of his right hand, he wore the emerald ring with the winged lion, and it twinkled as he gestured expressively. His impersonation was a thorough piece of theater, and rather than the ageless gentleman I had greeted earlier, he now seemed an old ascetic with gaunt face and thin shoulders. He purported to be nothing but a humble mendicant. His rich baritone was suppressed, and instead he spoke in muffled tones, almost a whisper. I thought he rambled as if he might be daft, and I was utterly disoriented by this act. He was a brother of the open road, he said, who didn't look backward at life, but forward to the reward that awaited him. We laughed at his jokes about fallen angels and heavenly helpers, but I thought that this friar's idea of heaven must be very different from that of Father Ryan. Here was a priest who could befriend a pirate. Suddenly I wished Manaperta had been with us. So, of course, Manaperta is the other childhood figure, the other uncle, as it were, the friend of Guido's grandparents. And Manaperta really is this piratical figure who really is an inspiration in other ways than Cavallo is. And there's a rivalry between Cavallo and Manaperta, which young Guido doesn't completely understand. I'll just close with one section, a short section from the late part of the book. So there is a mystery in the book, of course, as the book jacket says, because Guido's mentor is Leo de Clare, the artist that he apprentices himself to. And it really is when he falls in with Leo and his dubious partner, Bob Badgett, in Poughkeepsie, that he gets into all kinds of trouble. And Guido's a little older at that time. He's 17, still a minor. And he does some things which later on in the book, of course, he seeks to make amends for. You'll find out about that. But here's a favorite scene that Mary actually chose for me to read, and I'll just close with this. So Guido goes up to Poughkeepsie, and he works at the Half Moon Cafe and Saloon. And there's a lot of shit happening there that's a lot of fun for a 17-year-old boy. And he also takes private art lessons from Leo, so Leo becomes his mentor, and he spends a lot of time modeling himself on Leo the Clear. On a weekend afternoon that first summer of my employment, the Half Moon opened its doors and moved a few tables onto the sidewalk. Leo said, "We're in Paris, kid," and then shook his round head slowly. No. Within a few weeks, he was in court with a lawyer to defend his freedom to seek customers on public pavement, which he argued he had a right to do, since his tax dollars had helped to lay the cement for the common good. He gathered the support of some Chamber of Commerce types, and together they won the case of al fresco, as the newspapers called it. Other cafes and restaurants soon followed his example. "Conceptual art," he said, beaming with victory. "It's a brave new world, kid." It was this sort of enthusiasm and pure doggedness that he sold his patrons with this sort of enthusiasm and pure doggedness that he sold his patrons on his vision of the Hudson River College. A certain type of person could find Leo's edges very pleasant to the touch, and touch some persons he did for large sums. He was no beggar, no parasite or swindler, but playing off the beat like a drummer attacking his kit with rim shots and splashes of brass, he could be the life of a party when he wanted to. Those friends also helped him sell his paintings and grooved with him on long weekends around Long Island. The captain was definitely an acquired taste. Perhaps he could be compared to arak, so sweet that it burns your throat, or to the pleasure of puffing an Indian beedi, its tobacco harsh but heady as grass if you held the smoke in your lungs and believed it would stone you. That summer, everybody wanted some of Leo's high. Everybody wanted to hang out with him, drinking and smoking under imported Cinzano umbrellas, al fresco. You would never compare Leo's particular flavor to junk, and he himself never used any hard stuff. He hated the thought of it being dealt at his cafe, although it could be found out back in the alley that belonged to everybody. I remember a certain hulking creep who came around now and then to whisper into the captain's ear. Leo told me with disgust that he was a cop on the tape, Bobby's security blanket. I thought he must be joking. I had studied mugs like him at the villa, but always kept my distance because my father warned me that those big boys were connected. But a corrupt cop? I thought they only existed in movies. Pot wasn't like junk. It was practically harmless, right? It arrived in shipments from the city, though not nearly in such quantities as the fresh roasted coffee beans we ground for the house espresso and sold over the counter in paper sacks. Still, lids of Mary Jane were relatively easy to acquire if you were cool like Larry and his boys. You got a pass from Leo and then went around the corner to Badgett's Bazaar. Sometimes they would give away joints. Bob referred to free sticks of grass as appetizers. I remember. One night that summer, after hours at the Half Moon, Badgett invited me to a party at his house in New Paltz. But it was already 11, and I had to get home. Later, I learned that everybody had taken acid and danced nude until dawn. "Boo," my cousin said. He passed me a reefer he had lifted from his pack of Viceroys. We were standing outside the back door of the bazaar. It was supposed to be a surprise, my cousin springing the joint on me like he might shoot the blade of his knife for a kick. Yet I took it from him nonchalantly. Took my first hit like, what's the big deal? We had already flirted, Mary Jane and I. She had teased me many times behind the cafe, her sweet scent breezing by. The string that jerks and holds a junkie fast is wound around the fingers of a slaver. But grass is like a girl who knows somebody who's dangerous. She's licking her lips while you watch, and she goes, so I'm illegal? Yeah, Boo could put you in prison, but she doesn't want you to leave her for the deadly stuff. Times have changed, for sure, but smack still sounds painful to me. A sucker punch to the jaw, or possibly a fatal kick to the head. One guy told me H was like a kiss from God, big enough to kill all of his suffering, but I wouldn't know. It's sad to think that so many try to get happy and kill their pain with heroin. My first time with grass, I didn't believe I was high, and so I concluded that Chris must be goofing on me with some stuff he had rolled in the kitchen. I hopped out of the doorway behind Badgett's where we had smoked and continued to hop on both feet toward Leo's studio for my afternoon lesson. It was incredibly fun to move around like this. But at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, people on the street were gawking. And so Cristiano, laughing all the while, hustled after me. I guessed that he was going to pull a sack over my head, that he was going to bag me. And yet I didn't see it anywhere. Oh, how clever of him. I'm okay. I went in rhythm with my hopping. Then Chris put an arm around my shoulders and walked me to his car, gently accommodating me into my seat. Then we roared off at what seemed like a phenomenal speed. In a moment, we stopped. The two of us entered a door behind the moon and hiked a mountain of stairs to Leo's studio. Leo was there, and he knew right away I was high. Bidding Chris au revoir, he settled me down to work with watercolors as if I were a 6-year-old. Okay. I went abstract, discovered how to layer washes, did hours of skyscapes and rivers of color before I fell asleep over my paintings on the studio's sticky floor. And that's where I'll stop. So that painting over there on the far wall, that's called Stormlight, one of my paintings, and a detail from that is actually on the cover. And then over here on the right is another painting of mine called Vitally Yours. And I hope that you'll take this book to heart and that you will feel it is vitally yours. So thank you. Hang out. Let's still party for a little while. So good to see you. Grazie mille.